Shalom, Ahab, Wa, Baraka. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waha, Rakah, Kodash, and double honors to the elder apostles, the prophets, and the teachers at GMS that have been bringing out this 100% truth for the last 30 plus years, not wavering to the left or to the right. Now, I've been saying that for a long time. Now I'm going to go in on it a little bit. We're going to have to go in on today's topic is double honors to the elder apostles and the prophets for not wavering. So let's go ahead and get that. We're going to start out at 1 Timothy 5 and 17. We're going to go straight to the King James Version. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honors, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. And that's the 100% truth when they're laboring in the word and doctrine. That's not just reading the Bible to you. Okay? So I wanted to get that out there. So that's why I'm always saying double honors. Now, let's get into it because we've got a lot of other camps out there with wicked leaders. So let's go ahead and start there. And this is Leviticus 19 and 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. So what I'm going to do right now is explain to you a little something. So the daughter is talking about the children of Israel. To prostitute thy daughter means to teach her against Yahweh's commandments, his statutes, his laws, his ordinances. Okay? And it says, lest the land fall to whoredom. In other words, the whole land falls away from the instructions when you teach the land not to follow the instructions. Look at Eleazar. He's a perfect example. He's teaching the daughter that Paul's writing shouldn't be in the Bible. He's teaching the daughter that Tahar is a grapist. And then they keep lowering the age of the children. And then what happens? He turns out to be a sexual deviant. How about Polite? Walking around being an Egyptologist, with the little Achman Ra eye and everything on his face. Turns out to be a sexual deviant. Nate at IUIC, you're up next. How about Zabak at HOI? They be running through women like it's like they're all it's like it reminds me of junior high and high school where you have the circle of friends and all the girls just kind of rotate around all the guys. They're all sexual deviants. All of them. So when you go into it, these are the guys that are defiling the daughter by making her into a prostitute, by teaching against Yahweh's laws. So let's read it again. It says, do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. We're going to go into that word whore too, and I'm going to prove to you that being a whore means to stop following Yahweh's commandments. That's what we're going to prove. Lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. Now, I can go on the TV right now and show you some of the most wicked things ever. I mean, just go on TikTok, go on YouTube Shorts, go on Instagram. They be doing challenges that I don't understand. They'll be doing cheater tests. Like people have been together for years, but all of these things, this is what they're doing. This is the wickedness of the world these days because they have no fear of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. They'll run up in a place and shoot it up. They'll drive their cars through crowds of people. I mean, all these things are happening. This isn't something these are things that have recently, in the last couple months, have happened. People have no more... They don't have any more conscience, really. Like, they just do things and have no worries. For some reason, it doesn't. To me, I would be worried about the consequences of my actions. But let's go back into it. I said that I was going to prove that being a whore meant to fall away from the truth. So let's get it. Let's go over to Numbers chapter 15 And we're going to start at 38. Now, this is to bring a point out. I'm not trying to tell everybody to go around wearing fringes, because what happened in Second Maccabees 6:6, when you read down, it said that they made it illegal for us to keep the laws in the Maccabees. But then when you read down, there was women that were openly breastfeeding their children, and they could see that the child was circumcised. And when they saw the circumcised child, so they could physically see that that they were keeping Yahweh's laws. They could physically see that they were being Israelites. So what did they do? They took them up to the top of the stone wall and threw the children off head first. So if you think I'm trying to tell you to put fringes on, you got to be joking. Because in this day and age, when you do that kind of stuff, this is kind of getting off the subject, but when you do that, you got to go back into when IUIC and ISUPK were fucking fist fighting on the street corner for a block owned by the enemy. When WFI or whoever it was went down to watch the Palestinians protest and then practically started a riot. I mean, okay, let me just stop there. Let's get it. So you got to think about these things when you put fringes on. So now let's get back to it. Now, the reason why I'm bringing out numbers, though, is because I told you in the beginning, it has to do with proving that going a whoring or whoredoms is falling away from the law, not going out to the fucking corner and, selling ass pretty much. So it's not talking about that, but most people take that for the surface value, but it's talking about something else. It's talking about our teachers teaching the children of Israel not to do things that the scriptures have already told us to do. Like when you go into Christianity and they tell you the laws are done away with, you go over to Sakari, they'll tell you Paul's writings shouldn't be dealt with. You go to the Old Testament, only the whole fucking New Testament is no good. So you got a lot of people saying things. And that's going a whoring. So let's get it. This is Numbers chapter 15, starting at verse 38. Speak unto the children of Israel and bid that they make a fringe on the border of their garments throughout their generations, and put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, yet that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments which Yahweh, all the commandments of Yahweh, and do them. Now, I'm going to read this really slow. So you're going to put a fringe on the border of your garments, but you got to listen very carefully. It says, and remember all the commandments of Yahweh, and do them. And seek ye not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go a whoring. So when you seek after what's on your mind and what you can see with your eyes, that is pulling you away from the commandments which the Most High gave you, and He told us to do them, to not seek after what your mind tells you want, because your mind is wicked. The flesh warreth against the spirit. So it's saying don't go after your own, what you see with your eyes and what you got in your mind, all of your temptations and lusts. It's saying remember Yahweh's commandments, because those commandments, when you start going after your own mind and heart, what happens? You are falling away from the truth. You are going a whoring. Look it up for yourself. Now let's get back into it. So now we know that that's what it's talking about. To go a whoring means to fall away from the laws. So moving on, how would we go a whoring? Let's go to Titus 1, and we're going to get, let's go into the whole chapter, actually. Titus chapter 1, KJV authorized. And that's why I wanted to get to the whole chapter, because when you get 1 and 11, you got to go to the whole chapter, because you really need to start at verse 10. So Titus, starting at chapter 1, starting at verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision. There it is, right there. Our own people are going to teach us lies, and that is going to send us a whoring. So they're prostituting us by teaching us lies and sending us out into the world to be worldly. And then, but let me keep reading. Verse 11. So let's start at 10 again. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision. Verse 11. Whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not for filthy lucre's sake. So it's saying whose mouths must be stopped, because you're sending the daughter out, you're prostituting the daughter by teaching her lies. And it says who subvert whole houses. So when you teach lies, you're destroying, destroying. To subvert means to destroy whole houses, teaching things which they ought not. So the reason why they're compromised is for filthy lucre's sake. So what is that? Filthy, dirty money to do things and teach the children of Israel against the law. Why do you think that Nate and One Body and all these other camps get millions of dollars overnight? It's because they're being paid to not say certain things out of the Bible. One of the main things is Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. You never hear them saying that. You never hear them saying that because they get paid to not say the real name. You don't want to call on the real name, you might get a result. Let me keep going. So now we know that the teachers are the ones that are prostituting the daughter by teaching against the laws. And where I want to go next is to Revelation. In fact, let me get back. Yeah, let's go to Revelation chapter 18. And we'll read verse 4. Because this is the thing. After you've been taught by these wicked teachers, by your parents that only knew Christianity, you've got at some point, if Yahweh really wants you, he's gonna come and get you. He's gonna wake up your mind. That just means that you're part of the elect. But to get to that position, you've got to actually you've got to be aware of what's going on around you, for the lack of better words. So let's get it. Revelation chapter 18, and I'm going to start at verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. You know what? Let's start at verse 2. Might as well. And I'm just going to start from the top, guys. I know. We got to start from the top sometimes. Might as well just start from the beginning of the Bible, right? Revelation chapter 18, starting from the top. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils. That's now. That's right now. That's what we're living right now. Look at this place, man. I'll be locking my stuff up, waking up in the middle of the night going, man, did I lock everything good enough? Because there's a bunch of fucking devils around here. This is an inhabitation of devils. And the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So all the nations are trying to be like her. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. They are confederate with her. In other words, they've made deals. They are in alliance at this point. And the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through her abundance through the abundance of her delicacies. So all of the nations are part of this. All of the nations are pretty much are complete. Well, we all know that the other nations are completely against what the scriptures say. So that's a gimme. But our people are spread to the four corners of the earth. So they're amongst these nations. So we need to be very circumspect when you hear something like that. Wait a second. Our people are in Africa. Our people are in Asia. Our people are in the United Kingdom. Our people are in Australia. Our people are in Russia. Our people are in South America, clearly. North America, Canada. I mean, you name it. You name it. Arab countries, all of them. You name it, we're spread out to the four corners of the earth at this time. So when you read verse 4, Revelation 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people." Now we know all nations have drunk from the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So when it says, "Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues," it means that all that garbage that they've been teaching you because they waver, they're wavering all over the place. They're like the waves of the ocean, pursuant to the book of James, chapter 1. But these people are all over the place. And we're finally waking back up. So you have to be re-taught. Everything you learned before the elders and the apostles and the prophets, the teachers, before they started teaching, everything was compromised. Some of it true, some of it false, some of it being speculated. So in this 100% truth, we now have to be re-taught. We have to be relearned. That way we're not being prostituted and falling away from the commandments, falling into whoredoms. And you can tell that that's already happened because the land is full of wickedness. Road rage is on the rise. Gang violence is on the rise. Drugs are on the rise. The Trump just declared war against Iran. Do you guys know that? This morning. So come out of her, my people, is what you got to do. These other teachers have wavered, and they've prostituted the daughter of Zion into whoredoms. In other words, they've taught us against the truth. So let me go ahead and just get this in James chapter 1. It says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Yahweh that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given." So it's telling you that if you want wisdom, Yahweh will give it to you for free. But you've got to stick to your studies. That's upbraiding not, and it shall be given. And that is pursuant to, and I love this a book in the Bible. It's like one of my favorites, Sirach chapter 2, and going down to verse 3, it says, "Cleave unto him, depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end." So he's telling you, upbraideth not. It says, cleave unto him. How do you do that? Like I said, you've got to stick to the truth. So if you're not in the truth, you're literally a prostitute. In other words, you're falling away from the truth. You're out there selling yourself to the world, if you can understand that, okay? So going back over to James, and it says, verse 6, "If any of you lack wisdom," I'm going to read 5 again, because 5 and 6 go together. "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Yahweh, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like the waves of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed." So in other words, if you're wavering, that means that you're all over the place with your doctrine. You don't have the truth. A man that doesn't have the truth, read verse 7, let not that man think that he shall receive anything of Yahweh. So if you're not in the truth, you're not going to get anything. And if you're all over the place, read verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You're going to be unstable, like the teachers that are teaching you guys against the truth, that's really making you prostitutes and whoring you out. You're turning you into a whore, making you fall away from the truth. Those guys are unstable and double-minded. How do I know? They change their doctrine all the time. Alazar literally tells you can't use Paul's writings, then he'll use Paul's writings occasionally. How is that possible? You shouldn't either use them or don't. But I know Paul's written in the Bible. Alazar's not. There's no fucking book of Alazar. There's no book of General Bishop Nathanielica. There's no book of Joanna. I'm sorry. What is his name? Johanna? Johanna, just saying, in German means Joanna. Because my name is, my real name is Johann, which means John. So imagine that. My cousin is a girl and she's Johanna and I'm Johann. That's how I know that Johanna means Joanna. So look it up. Johanna from ISUPK. You got a girl's name. Just saying. In German, it's a girl's name. But anyway, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All of those people have changed their doctrine. And they're the ones that are the real sexual deviants. That's why they keep pointing the finger at one breakdown that Tahar did over 10 years ago. But what else do they talk about? What else can they say about GMS? So that's how you know that you haven't been prostituted out to whoredoms, is when you've been with GMS for the last even 5, 10, 15 years. You know that the doctrine hasn't changed. If they've been here 30 plus years, the doctrine hasn't changed. They're the ones that told everybody that Cornelius is an Israelite. And Cornelius and Job have something very serious in common. They both feared Yahweh and eschewed all evil. Interesting, right? Interesting. So, now that we went through all that, we're going to get one last thing just to seal the deal on these horrible, wicked teachers, because you would think that that's talking about the parents, but our parents, for the most part, 99% of our parents weren't taught the truth. The teachers this is talking about is you Christian leaders, you Muslim leaders, which are false prophets and fake and lies and idolatry, all the way down to every religion, every single religion, except for the 100% truth that comes out of GMS. So let's go ahead and we'll close out with that. I want to say, let's start at verse 13. This is Ephesians 4 and 13. Until we come to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of Yahweh, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Yahushua. Okay, until we can all come to the truth together, we have to all come back to that 100% truth. No more compromising. No more stupid semantical games, none of that. Verse 14, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with the wind of, with every wind of doctrine. There's your tossed to and fro. I told you they're all over the place. They're tossed like the sea, like the waves of the ocean, right? So they're here a little bit, there a little bit, but never really making sense, and then removing doctrines that contradict them. So that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, where they lie in wait to deceive. They're lying in wait to turn you into a prostitute to cause whoredoms among the children of Israel. And if you go into the laws, if we're not keeping the laws, then Yahweh won't deal with us. So the enemy of our people will pay the weak-minded of our people to go against what the truth says, to keep us in sin. So with that being said, if you got eyes to see and you got ears to hear, remember this, Revelation 22:12. Behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to as his work shall be. Shalom.